going on YouTube? I'm back with another video, and as you can see, the scenery is a little different this time. Instead of doing a point of view of my car, I'm actually doing just a face-to-face conversation. One reason being is because it's freaking freezing outside right now, and I'm trying to switch it up a little, see what people think of this. Maybe they like it better. Maybe I'm able to convey the information a lot better. But yeah. So what I'm going to be talking about, as you can see in the title, is a Mazdaspeed V3 full modification guide. So this is from just being bone stock all the way to being fully bolted to the stock turbo. Now I don't think everyone's going to agree with the exact order. I'm gonna say it, but this is just from my experience of what I've learned from talking to people locally and also looking at forums. Also, the goal of this guide is to not only make your car as fun as possible, but to keep it as safe and reliable as possible. And also so that way you don't lose that daily drivability of your car. I'm going to be breaking down these mods into stages. So there's 3 stages of just being stock turbo. So at the bottom of every clip that I do with the mod, I'm just going to reference what stage it is. So first thing we're going to be talking about, it's actually 2 things that I would recommend doing at the exact same time. It's upgrading your high pressure fuel pump internals and a COB Accessport V3. So talking about the high pressure fuel pump internals first. So the stock internals are not necessarily bad. I mean, they're meant to do the job for the car being stock. But the problem is when you start adding power to your car, you're gonna need the car to pump more fuel. So let's say you do an intake first before high pressure fuel pump internals. Well, you run the risk of the car not being able to deliver enough fuel, causing the car to mess up its AFRs, causing the car to potentially run lean. When your car is running lean, it basically means that the car is not receiving as much fuel as it needs to. And with upgrading the fuel pump internals, it allows the car to have the correct amount of fuel delivered that it needs to run properly. So basically what I'm saying is upgrading your high pressure fuel pump internals, not the whole fuel pump itself, just the internals. You need to do it regardless. There's no way getting around it. Any power mod that you do that allows the car to breathe more air is gonna require more fuel. And if you don't have the fuel pump internals, like I said, the car may run lean and then your shit may blow up. So you can buy the fuel pump internals from the 2 most popular ones are Autotech and Corksport, but you can also get the full fuel pump plus the internals from CPE. So with the Accessport, basically what you're allowed to do is you're allowed to read 6 different stats at the same time. So boost, coolant temps, knock retard, fuel pump pressure, AFRs, boost air temps, the list goes on. So for example, if you go wide open throttle, you want to see your fuel pressure. If it's not over 1700, then you know your car is running lean. If your AFRs are not chilling at 14.7 at idle, then your car is not running properly. Maybe if you hit more boost than peak boost, then you're over boosting. Maybe you want to know when you can go wide open throttle, but you don't know what temperature your car is. You can check your coolant temps, you can check your boost air temps. All this stuff is super important, and it really helps the longevity of your car. Another thing Accessport does is it loads tunes. So they come preloaded with COB off-the-shelf maps, which honestly I wouldn't recommend. I would recommend getting a professional tune, but what the Accessport allows you to do, it allows you to load any sort of tune for the certain modifications you have. So to sum up both the Accessport and the high pressure fuel pump internals, the reason why I say you have to get both of them at the same time first is because they're one of those mods that like you won't really see a difference right away, but it's one of those things that you're gonna need. It's a safety mod. There's no way of getting around it. And the other problem is it's really expensive too. Like the high pressure fuel pump internals are like $350 brand new, and then the Accessport is like $650 brand new. This is all US dollars, by the way, not even Canadian. So you're already looking at a rack. But it sucks. But at the end of the day, if you want to modify your car, you don't want your car to blow up, just get them first. So next on the list, we're going to be talking about a rear motor mount. So basically the stock rear motor mount, as I've talked about in a previous video, it's made out of rubber and it causes the engine to move around a lot. Especially when you start adding power, it'll start shaking a lot more, which is not good for the car at all. So what an upgraded rear motor mount does is it reduces wheel hop, it reduces torque steer, it helps shifts, especially when you're really romping on the car, like at higher RPM shifts, it really helps with that. Let's say you're doing like first to second, second to third. I know sometimes you tend to like grind. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed that, but I've noticed that. And I've heard of people experiencing that, but it definitely helps with that. So in doing so, since the upgraded rear motor mount is a lot more solid, it's made out of like solid aluminum, it's gonna cause a bit of vibration. So you're gonna notice for the first week it's gonna vibrate a lot, whether you're just revving the car, you're at a red light, you're just idling. But after about a week, once it breaks in, it's not that bad. I personally have the Cobb one. Other brands like Corksport, JBR, Damon Motorsports is a really good one. I have the Cobb one. Honestly, I even forget that it's there, but once it breaks in, it's honestly not that bad. So as for the upgraded transmission and passenger motor mount, that's totally up to you. I still run the stock one as it is my daily, and if you upgrade both those two, then you'll notice a shit ton of vibration to the point where it's unbearable. So that's totally up to you. I mean, obviously it's better. It causes the motor to shake even less, but it's totally up to you. So again, rear motor mount, you won't really notice like a power gain. Again, this is more of a safety mod per se, but we're definitely going to get into the fun mods right now. So next on the list, we're going to be talking about two things that you should get at the exact same time. So that is a intake and turbo inlet pipe. So the reason why I say get the intake and the turbo inlet pipe at the same time is because basically the turbo inlet pipe is what connects the intake to the turbo itself. So if you're running an aftermarket intake with the stock turbo inlet pipe, you're not utilizing the intake to its full potential because the stock turbo inlet pipe is terrible. It's made out of plastic. It's got like weird edges and corners. It's really shitty. It's really restrictive. And you may say to yourself, well, shit, I can't afford both. If you can't afford both at the same time, just wait until you can afford both, because if you're just going to get the intake with the stock inlet pipe, there's no point. So with the intake, it allows for more airflow. It allows the car to breathe a lot better. It gives you that cool turbo noise, believe it or not. Along with the turbo inlet pipe, it allows the car to spool up a lot faster, and it makes the turbo whistle a lot louder. And it also allows you to utilize your intake to its full potential. So basically, if you can't afford both of them at the same time, I would just wait, get them both at the same time. Get the intake and the turbo inlet pipe. You can get them from Cobb, Corksport, JBR, whatever it is, but getting these two at the exact same time will allow your car to breathe a lot better than stock, and it'll give you that cool turbo noise. So next on the list, we're going to be talking about the bypass valve. So these cars come stock with a bypass valve, not a blow-off valve. So the problem with the stock bypass valve is it's made out of plastic, so it's really cheap. And the problem is when you start adding power to the car, you're going to start accumulating more boost. And with the stock bypass valve, you may run the risk of causing a boost leak. So you may be asking me, well, why don't I get a blow-off valve? The reason why you'd want a blow-off valve is to give you that sound, which the intake already gives you. And these cars stock run full recirc, and the problem with blow-off valves is they run vent to atmosphere. So to put it into short terms, vent to atmosphere means the air is being bypassed outside the car. So basically, the air is not being recirculated back to the mass airflow sensor. So what that basically does is it causes your car to not know how much air is being delivered back into the car, which may cause your car to run rich in between shifts, which is what you don't want. With an upgraded bypass valve, you can run it with no tune. You could literally upgrade it whenever you want. Basically, all it does is it just holds more boost, and it doesn't cause the car to have any boost leak. So next on the list, we're going to be talking about something that's not necessarily like something you need, but it's something you can do because, I mean, everyone wants this. It's either a catback exhaust, resonator delete, or muffler delete. So you may be thinking, well, if I get a catback exhaust, it's going to make the car breathe a lot better. The problem is you're not really going to see any power gains because you're still on your stock downpipe. The only thing a catback would be doing at that point is just giving you more sound. So to sum that up, all three of these exhaust options, at the end of the day, they're just going to make your car louder. It's all preference of what you want, but you're not going to see any power gains from these. So that about wraps up stage one of the car. So at this point, you just have the intake and inlet pipe, and you have the high pressure fuel pump internals. I would still run your stock tune. I wouldn't run the Cobb tunes. They're garbage. They make your car run like shit. I've ran them before. My car felt like it was running like shit. I would personally get a e-tune. So FREEKTUNE offers a really good tune. It's called an OTS Plus tune. Basically, it's not a full custom tune, but it's still a custom tune. You only get one revision, and you're going to see a massive, and I promise you, a massive power difference from what it was stock, just from the intake and the fuel pump internals. So don't run the Cobb tune. Get a professional tune. So moving on to stage two, this is when you're really gonna start upping your power. Before doing anything, I would upgrade your spark plugs to one-step colder plugs. So the reason why I say you should get one-step colder plugs before you start doing stage two is because the cylinders are gonna get a lot hotter as you start adding some serious more power. So in doing so, your car's gonna run a lot better than stock because the cylinders are going to be a lot more cool. And some recommendations, I would say the best two are NGK or Denso, and I would gap them to 0.26 to 0.28. So next on the list, it's going to be another two-parter. It's going to be an E-tune and a downpipe. And what I mean is you want to have the E-tune ready on your access port before you install the downpipe and start up the car. So basically what I mean by getting an E-tune is you're going to buy an E-tune online from a professional Mazdaspeed tuner. So either Purple Drink, FREEKTUNE, or Stratified. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to list your mod list. So basically at this point you're going to have your fuel pump internals, intake, inlet pipe, and downpipe. And then you're going to tell them the target boost you want to hit and like what launch control you want to set it up as, and you just give them the basic information of your car. Another reason why having an E-tune ready for your downpipe is so important is because the power difference you're going to see from an E-tune compared to a cob tune, the E-tune will give you a shit ton more power than the cob tune will, and your car will run a lot better on a professional tune. So moving on to the downpipe. So this will probably make the biggest difference on your car. Not only is it going to make your car a lot louder, it's going to fully unrestrict your car, make your car breathe a lot better, and it's going to be a fuck ton faster. I promise you guys, like, it is insane. So you may be asking yourself, what if I can't afford the tune, but I can only afford the downpipe? Honestly, my best advice to you is just wait. If you have the downpipe, just wait until you can buy the tune. You can just have the downpipe sitting. That's what I did. I had the downpipe sitting probably a month before I got the tune. But I would highly recommend not running the cob tune. I will say this once, I will say this again. I would strongly recommend for any Mazdaspeed owner, do not run a cob tune. Your car will run like shit, and you're not going to be utilizing the power mods that you put on to its full potential. So essentially the downpipe is like the biggest power gain you will probably get from your car, besides obviously going like a bigger turbo, but you'll literally notice up to like, I think I've seen some dynos where you get like plus like 30 to 40 wheel horsepower and torque. That's all essentially stage 2 is. It's just a downpipe. It makes the car a lot faster, it makes it a lot louder, and yeah. So these next two are actually not considered stage 2. I mean, they kind of are, but not really. But you don't have to get them at the same time, but I would definitely get them at some point. It is an oil catch can and an EGR delete. So the problem with these cars is it tends to spray a lot of oil from the engine, and it may get into your intake system, which causes it to clog up your valves. So basically what an oil catch can does is it prevents blow-by oils that are flowing from your PCV system that would originally go into your intake. They now go into the oil catch can that catches all of it, that you can drain out at some point. And you may be asking, how often should I drain my oil catch in? Honestly, it really depends. I mean, some people do it like once a week, once a month, even ever oil change. It's totally up to you, but yeah, it's a great mod to have. And the shit that comes out of the oil catch can is honestly disgusting. It just makes you realize, like, damn, like this is all the oil that is like shitting out of my car, and it's really good. It's kind of a safety mod. You obviously won't see any power gains from it, but it's a great mod nonetheless. So with the EGR delete, you're basically getting a block off plate where you unplug the EGR valve, and then you just put a plate back in, so that way exhaust gases are not traveling back into your car, eventually clogging up your valves. And it's a great cheap mod. You can get it from like Damon Motorsports. I have the JBR one. Also Cork Sport sells it. Anyone is good. It works out great. I mean, some people just unplug it, so I mean, you could do that if you want, but yeah, it's a great cheap mod to have, and it makes your car run a lot better. I also wanted to mention an EGR delete will give you a check engine light. Don't worry about it. It's nothing serious. I've mentioned this in my previous video, but you will need a tune for that. So that's why I wanted to mention it. I would try to get the EGR delete. Also, at the same time, you get your downpipe, because when you get the tune, you can also account for the EGR delete, so that way your tuner can delete the code. But if you're okay with having a check engine light and you can get it at any time, it doesn't matter. But me personally, I got the EGR delete along with the downpipe, so that way he could delete the code at the same time. But it's totally up to you guys. I just wanted to mention that. So that about wraps up everything for stage 2. So at this point, you're basically almost fully bolted, but you're missing one key thing that your car will really need, that you'll realize that your car suffers from. So let's get into it. So moving on to basically the only thing that's a part of stage 3 is an upgraded intercooler. So you can go with an upgraded front mount intercooler or top mount intercooler, preferably front mount intercooler, because you won't suffer from heat soak. So the problem with the stock top mount intercooler is, firstly, it sits at the top of your engine, so it's circulating all that heat, causing your car to heat soak, which basically comes from, let's just say, driving the car really hard, or driving it for a long period of time, or even just a hot summer day. So the problem with your car heat soaking is you get a massive power loss, and majority of the time your car is probably getting hot at some point because the intercooler is sitting at the top. So you definitely want to upgrade it. That's why I always say a front mount intercooler is more optimal than a upgraded top mount intercooler. So if you get an upgraded top mount intercooler, yes, it will take longer to get hot, but at the same time it's still sitting on the top of the car. And the problem when it does get hot is it takes even longer to cool down, which is not a good thing. But at the end of the day, it's still a worthy upgrade over the stock shitty top mount intercooler. The reason why I say getting a front mount intercooler is just because where it sits. It sits right at the front of your front bumper where your car consistently gets more cool air, so your car will not suffer from heat soak. Depending on how big your intercooler core is, you may need to get a custom crash bar. Maybe if you have a Mishimoto one, or I have the Ultimate Racing one where I had to get a custom crash bar for it. I know the Cobb one you can still run the stock crash bar, but it all depends. So that's about it for stage 3. It's only really one thing, but there is one more thing that I want to talk about that you should upgrade, and that is your injector seals. So the injector seals are one of those things that a lot of speed owners don't do, including myself, which I am going to do at some point. I promise I'm going to do that next season. And the problem with that is the OEM seals are really shitty. The problem with the OEM seals as well is it doesn't make your car as reliable as it should, because if it does leak, there's a loss of performance, and there could also be an inconsistency in your power band if you run the stock seals. So just get the injector seals. Cork Sport offers a good one. They have a whole ass blog about it if you want to read more about it. I'm not too educated on it, but I do know that you should do it. And yeah, I'll do it at some point, I promise. So that about wraps up the modification guide. As for aesthetics, I mean, the sky's the limit, man. Do whatever the hell you want, whether it be lift it, slam it, sticker bomb it. I mean, the sky's the limit. At the end of the day, as long as you think it looks good, that's all that matters. So that about wraps up this video. I just want to say I appreciate everyone who's been watching the videos. This channel is slowly growing from all your liking, your commenting, and subscribing and shit. It really goes a long way. I got a fuck ton more video ideas. Stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
And polite in the club every night. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect.